week has passed and the giant dumpster fire we call everyday life continues to rage on. Except this time things are a little different because the fire is real and the giant dumpster is Canada. Alright, so I guess it's exactly the same as every other week. That's right, Canada is currently battling its most devastating wildfire season on record, with ripple effects reaching as far as Norway. But what exactly is causing the fires? Well, this is what the experts have to say. Though it is not yet determined what exactly has caused a number of this year's earlier than usual and more widespread wildfires, there are two common reasons wildfires begin. They typically start either from lightning or from human activity, according to fire expert and Queen's University fellow Edward Struzik. Struzik said that lightning ignites between 1/3 to 1/2 of the fires seen in Canada, but the majority of cases are human-caused. The latter could be related to industrial activity, such as vehicles traveling through forests that may have a hot muffler and come into contact with really brittle kindling or dry grass, as well as people dropping cigarettes or letting campfires smolder, he said. Oh yeah? Hot mufflers and cigarettes, you say? That's the human activity that caused upwards of 100 wildfires? What, did the dudes from Fast and the Furious get bored of LA and decide to hit up rural Canada for the biggest illegal street race in recorded history?
Everybody go! Ejectocito, cut!
Fast and the Furious drift right off the Rockies, eh? If that's the case, can the experts explain why all of the fires were seemingly ignited at the exact same time?
All of southeast Quebec just caught on fire, guys. All of it. Insane. Insane. Look at that. The whole thing. All at once.
Personally, I would say that's pretty suspicious, but luckily, the Rolling Stone and other mainstream media publications want to assure you that this direct evidence of a coordinated attack is nothing but a conspiracy theory. But of course, in true MSM fashion, they don't make an attempt to actually discount the evidence. They just hurl insults and ad hominem attacks in hopes that you won't notice they didn't actually say anything.
Wildfire smoke from Canada causing apocalyptic-like smoke to smother the Northeast, causing some of the worst air quality in the world. It's also fueling some conspiracy theories. While the official explanation for what sparked the haze is lightning striking unusually dry forests, the theories range from space lasers, Antifa arsonists, the deep state cabal going scorched earth, and even aliens?
Aliens? Now you're just being intentionally obtuse. Everyone knows the Earth is flat and space is just a projection. Now, it wouldn't be a weekly roundup without Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's input, who of course is blaming the fires on none other than climate change. He posted the following tweet on Monday. Year after year with climate change, we're seeing more and more intense wildfires, and they're starting to happen in places where they don't normally. To make sure we're keeping people safe, we've invested in community-based firefighters across the country. The notion that the disaster was caused by climate change really backfired, as none of his followers seem to be buying it. Government.exe is corrupt says, since there are only controlled fires in Canada that seem to stop at the border, American firefighters have volunteered as fire season in their country is relatively tame. To which John Stileman replies, the fire is not allowed to leave Canada because it's not vaccinated. God, I love the internet. 1984 is today says, you're seeing more and more of these fires because of forest mismanagement. We have the same problem down here in Oregon. The undergrowth becomes tinder dry and the fire spreads more quickly. You can take out that undergrowth manually or with goats, but you need the crisis to sell your agenda, so you won't. You're absolutely right, stranger on the internet. The Canadian Liberal government did not invest much into wildfire management, but for very good reason. They needed that money not for the flames, but for the flamers. That's right, our home and native land has budgeted $100 million to the LGBTQIA, while budgeting less than half of that to protect Canadians from literal fire. But don't worry about it. Gays don't live out in the country. Now, while we're on the topic of things burning to the ground, Black Lives Matter is headed for insolvency after plunging $8.5 million into the red. But founder Patrisse Cullors' brother was still paid $1.5 $1.6 million for security services in 2022, while sister of board member earned $1.1 million for consulting. Honestly, I don't blame Patrice at all. You see, I don't blame her because I know that smart people look out for their own. They gatekeep and engage in nepotism and focus their time and resources on safeguarding their legacy. Black people do it, brown people do it, Jewish people really do it. All people do it. All people, except, of course, white people. Because white people are too busy doing shit like this.
James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety.
And when they're not complaining about loud noises and tummy aches, they're vehemently supporting the invasion of their own country by peaceful refugees who not only refuse to integrate, but refuse to understand why it's not okay to kill a swan in the park and eat it. 3 teen refugees from Myanmar, aged 16, 17, and 18, have been accused of brutally killing a beloved swan in New York and eating her. Police say the 3 jumped the fence in the middle of the night and were able to steal Faye because she was nesting and did not fight back. The suspects then brought Faye home to cook her for dinner. Faye's children were also abducted but were later retrieved by authorities unharmed. Despite consuming the swan, the family and friends of the suspect told police they did not know it was a swan but thought it was a very large duck and also were not aware that it was a wild animal. They did not have any idea of the significance of swans in this community. Brace yourselves, because as a Canadian who grew up in a city that was invaded by immigrants, I can tell you right now that killing and eating community swans is not the only no-no these people are unaware of. They also require lessons on things like why we don't haggle at Dollarama, why it's important to have a license before driving, and my personal favorite, why we don't pull down our pants in public and take a shit in the middle of the street.
Culturally, I'm not Indian at all. And the only reason I know this is because last year I went to India. She opened the doors to that plane, I turned Canadian so fast. The minute they open the doors of that plane, you get an overwhelming blast of shit smell right up your nose. It's almost like they hire somebody to shit in front of every plane that lands. Quick, quick, here it comes on. Shit, shit, and go. Shit and go. Go, go, go.
Now, swans aren't the only white creatures being hunted in parks by asylum seekers. A harrowing video shows a Syrian refugee stabbing kids in a French playground, including a toddler in a stroller. Chilling video footage caught a Syrian refugee repeatedly stabbing screaming adults and kids in a French playground Thursday, including at least one toddler in a stroller. A 90-second clip shared online shows the man repeatedly running at people in the picturesque alpine town of Annecy, injuring at least 6 people, including 4 kids under age 5 left fighting for their lives. Police later blamed a 31-year-old Syrian national with legal refugee status in France for the attack that President Emmanuel Macron called an act of absolute cowardice. Lead prosecutor later said 4 children between 22 months old and 3 years suffered life-threatening wounds. In Paris, lawmakers interrupted a debate to hold a moment of silence for the victims. The nation is in shock, Macron tweeted. I don't know why people are shocked by this. When you import the third world, you get the third world. It's really not that hard to comprehend. These stories are especially scary as a mother who knows my government plans to increase the number of immigrants to 500,000 per year. And I imagine they're even scarier for the New Yorkers who know their mayor wants to house immigrants in their private residences.
It is my vision to take the next step to this, to go to the faith-based locales, and then move to private residents. There are residents who are suffering right now because of economic challenges. They have spare rooms, they have locales, and if we can find a way to get over the 30-day rule and other rules that government has in its place, we can take that $4.2 billion, 4.3 it may be now, that we potentially would have to spend, and we can put it back in the pockets of everyday New Yorkers, everyday houses of worship, instead of putting it in the pockets of corporations. And some of those corporations come from outside our city.
Will Eric Adams set an example and house illegal immigrants in his own private residence? One Twitter user remarked. Gracie Mansion can house quite a few, another said, referring to the mayor's historic private residence, which overlooks the East River. I'm sure he's going to lead by example, isn't he? One person said. Remember when the founders fought a revolution in part over forced quartering? Was a core reason for becoming a new nation, another retorted. Now that's just taking it too far. The Quartering Act was about housing foreign Western soldiers in cities. This is about housing foreign Eastern soldiers in cities. Welcome to the revolution, I guess.